This is Swiss and Chips, your British guide to Switzerland. Hello and welcome. I'm Jo Faye.
And I'm Simon Sried.
And this is the first episode of Swiss and Chips. We're talking about Swiss surprises, expectations versus reality. But before we start, we wanted to talk a little bit about the show and what you can expect from us. Moving to Switzerland can be quite confusing at first. There's so much to find out. And we really wanted to share our experiences with you in this podcast. Me as a British expat who moved to Switzerland as a journalist about 7 years ago, and Simon as a Swiss who's travelled the world. And we now live together in Bern.
Yeah, and we thought a podcast is a really nice way to connect with the listeners. And you get very close to listeners, much closer than with the blog. So that's why we try to release a podcast and a new episode every other week.
Exactly. And we really want to make this show for you. We want to hear from you. So please tell us your questions and we'll answer them for you. And you can find us on swissandchips.com. So let's get straight stuck in then.
Yeah, I think our listeners will be interested in to know more about you. You said you moved to Switzerland 7-8 years ago. And what did you bring here? And, how comes?
Yeah, well, when I first moved here, I was working for a radio station and I came just with a suitcase, basically, a large one, admittedly, but no boxes or anything like that. I just brought the bare essentials and thought, well, I'll find whatever else I need when I get there.
Yeah, and I think when I travel around the world or wherever we go, then people say, oh, you are Swiss, you must be rich and you have chocolate and, streets, pavement is made out of gold and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think you must also have had some expectations about Switzerland, didn't you?
100%, yes. For some reason, I thought that when I moved here, I would be going to live in some kind of wooden chalet on the side of a mountain and then it would be constantly snowing. I mean, that's no exaggeration. And then when I got here, I thought, where are all these wooden chalets? Why is there so much grey concrete around?
But you really thought it will snow everywhere, like literally in town and everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, before you know a place really well, you just have one set picture of it. And when you try and think about it more in detail, you realise that doesn't really make sense. It's not the North Pole here, we're still in Europe. But for some reason, you have this idea of Switzerland of you can only imagine those beautiful mountains and rolling hills and lots of snow. You don't think, what's it like in the cities?
Yeah, I understand. So what did you bring here, really? What was it?
I think I pretty much went out and bought some new clothes, put them in a suitcase, brought some books and the kind of essentials. For some reason, I thought it's very important to take my favourite type of toothpaste with me, just in case they don't have it there. Turns out you do, so well done on that.
So which one is it?
Oh, Colgate, of course.
Oh, good.
I still buy it. At first, I asked my mum to send me some in the post, but then I thought, well, it is slightly more expensive here, but when you include postage costs from England.
And can you also remember what you bought the first when you came to Switzerland? Was it chocolate?
The first thing I bought when I moved here?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. I pretty much remember going to the supermarket and realising that you had a lot less sort of pre-prepared items. And I don't mean microwave meals. I mean just sort of, you have the kind of essential ingredients that you need to construct a meal, like cheese or meat or things like that, and somehow you combine them together.
Yeah, I understand.
And in England, we have more kind of slightly more prepared options. But on the plus side, you have an entire aisle full of chocolate. And basically, I started to work my way through that.
Oh, okay. So we said we want to talk a little bit about Swiss surprises and expectations you had. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, where to begin, really? I think when I first moved here and I spoke to people back home, a question that I heard quite a lot, which kind of surprised me a bit, was, so you have a secret bank account now? And I just thought, I don't really know how to answer that question. I think they imagine that when people go to the bank in Switzerland, it's a bit like being in the Born Identity, that you have some kind of, secret deposit box and a number and a special key or something, and you draw out a gold bar and shave a bit off to go to the supermarket.
But that wasn't your expectation, was it?
No, I mean, not yet. Maybe that dream could still be achieved. But actually, getting a bank account in Switzerland was completely different in an unexpected way. You've got to pay for different things in different accounts. There's so many more options, it feels like. And, luckily for me, this wasn't an issue, but with Americans who live in the country, they actually couldn't even open bank accounts sometimes. because of the whole, banking secrecy problem that we've been having between the US and Switzerland. So it was kind of different in a way that I didn't expect.
So what other expectations did you have then?
I'd heard that, people in Switzerland speak 4 languages. And I personally imagine this might be quite a stupid thing to admit to, but I personally imagined that everybody would speak those 4 languages.
4?
Yes.
Which 4 might be?
Ooh, is this a quiz? German, French, Italian, and Romansh.
Oh, Romansh.
Exactly.
Okay.
You'd forgotten that one.
No, I haven't, but, no one really speaks Romansh, I would say.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. When you read about it, you read, 4 languages are spoken in Switzerland. And, of course, if you go into a bit more detail, you find out that you have the separate language areas. But I just imagined that, if you live here, how can you have a country where everyone doesn't speak the same language? That's just a really unusual situation, I think, when you come from England, for example.
But English and Scottish, is that the same?
Well, technically speaking, it's the same language, yes, but we may have difficulties understanding each other.
Okay. And is there any other expectations you had beside the language and maybe money? Is it food or...?
Well, so many things were different. For example, it's changed quite a lot even in the short time that I've been here. But at first, I went to quite a few places and was always surprised when I couldn't pay with card. People might say, we don't take card. And I think, that's a bit strange. So I started to use cash a bit more. Of course, now it's changed quite a lot. Even in the past 7 or so years, you can pay with card most places. But on the point of money, the sort of large denominations that you can get in notes was quite surprising. In the UK, for example, a £20 note is kind of the largest configuration you'd have in your wallet most of the time. Having a £50 note is really unusual and kind of exciting. But here in Switzerland, you'd have, a 100 franc note in your purse, no problem, no questions asked. You can buy a stick of chewing gum with a 100 franc note. That's just crazy.
Yeah, you quite often ask me like, can I pay with 100 francs at the kiosk? And yeah, obviously you can. Why shouldn't you?
Because in the UK, if you go and try and buy something for, 50p with a £50 note, they'll say, no, I don't have any change. And just look at you like, why did you even ask? And here I go to them and say sorry when I hand over the 100 franc note. And they look at me like, why are you saying sorry? Very confusing.
Is it?
Yes. But you get used to it, of course.
So, and has there been any positive, like super nice surprises you found here?
Yeah, one thing that really surprised me was that very, very small children walk to school on their own. And when I first saw this, children who are kind of maybe, 5 years old, something like that, just walking along the street on their own with a huge rucksack on their back. I thought, that seems so dangerous. Anyone could steal those kids away, but everyone does it. And they even talk to you. They say hello when they walk past you in the street. And I just found that crazy. When I was a child growing...
Oh, well, that's just polite, I would say.
That's really polite. That's really nice. But, when I was a child growing up in England, you get told, don't speak to strangers. And here, they say hello to people they don't know.
Greeting and speaking is a different thing, isn't it?
Well, in Switzerland, yes.
Yeah, it's very difficult to understand to think that somewhere it's different than here, because it's normal, yes, totally normal to go to school alone.
Exactly, yeah.
Even to kindergarten, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think it's a really, really nice thing that you have here. I hope that doesn't change.
Yeah, it's very nice. Safe country, isn't it? Do you have negative things that happened to you?
Oh, I've had a few bad experiences.
Yeah, think a bit longer, please.
No, there's always this another stereotype about Switzerland and Swiss people that I think you hear more about once you move here, and people say that the Swiss are unfriendly. And on this point, I would say I've had experiences of, people who I assume are Swiss being very unfriendly.
Who said Swiss are unfriendly?
Well, That's a stereotype.
Tell me that person, show me, and I go to a person and have a closer talk.
You go to that person and be extremely friendly, you mean?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, it's a stereotype about the Swiss that they can be very polite, but perhaps a little bit standoffish. They say.
Honest, you mean?
Yes, but they also say that once they get to know you better, you've got a friend for life.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's something that's spoken about quite a lot amongst, foreigners who live in the
That's
country.
quite interesting to hear because, both of these I've never heard before.
Really?
Not really, no.
Well, what I would say on the topic anyhow is that, I've obviously met Swiss who have been not particularly friendly to me. I have had the odd unpleasant encounter in shops or when trying to buy something speaking German. People have been extremely rude and impatient, but I think that's the same anywhere, personally. Yeah. And on the other hand, I've had a lot of Swiss people who've, invited me to come and have dinner at their house, or who've come and asked me to eat lunch with them at work, for example. And maybe it's just because I've, worked for quite a long time in London, but I happen to think the Swiss are extremely friendly.
But basically that summarizes Swiss are like any other folks, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay, good.
You're normal, don't worry.
Oh, good. That's good to know. What about, can you tell me different things? Because, for example, what I often hear is about the time, or that we are very precise.
Oh, the time. How could I forget about this? Yes. So I think you've probably got a kind of long scale of nationalities and where they're stereotypically put on the timekeeping scale. Swiss are obviously, 10 out of 10 for timekeeping. When they say be there at 10, that means be there at least 5 minutes before and be ready. But don't be too early, because that would be impolite. And then you maybe have nationalities at the other end of the scale who might show up half an hour late and think nothing of it. I think the Brits are probably somewhere a little bit in the middle, but maybe I'm just saying that because I'm biased.
Yeah, and you're always late. That's why.
Not late. For us, being a few minutes after 10 o'clock is unremarkable and fine. Half an hour, not so much, but maybe okay among friends.
Half an hour?
If someone, got really stuck at work and couldn't leave, they might say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll be there. Be there in half an hour. And you'd say, not ideal, but okay.
Well, that's for Swiss the same, I would say. I would say normal thing is to be 2-3 minutes too early or 2-3 minutes too late is also okay. 5 minutes is acceptable. 10 minutes, you would maybe already send a message or, give a quick call that you will be late. That someone works in front of a shop or something where you want to meet for 20 minutes, that's not going to happen. You will leave after 15 minutes, I think.
Friendship terminated.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you just call and then you can also come half an hour late. That's no problem.
Yeah. I see, you are friendly.
As we are talking about time,
yes.
We said we want to do the podcast about 5 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this has been a bumper first episode. Anyway, it's probably time to draw it to a close now. So if people want to find out more about us, they can head over to our website, swissandchips.com. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes if you like what you hear, and you could even leave us a review. That would be lovely.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Indeed. Thanks very much for listening.
Bye.